Louis J. Pearlman grows up in Queens, New York. He was born in 1954, and so right next to where Lou Pearlman is growing up, coming out of Flushing Airport, there are these airships that take off, and when Lou Pearlman is 10 years old, he sees his first Goodyear blimp. The blimp transforms his life.
I saw the Goodyear blimp flying outside my window, and I was like, you know, what is this thing flying around? But it intrigued me. It was the World's Fair at the time, and I managed to get a ride on it. I was hooked, and I love flying.
Lou was sort of obsessed with aviation, and many of his life choices later on actually kind of had an aviation theme.
Lou did not grow up as the coolest guy at his school. Lou has a pocket protector. Lou pulls his pants up really high. Lou is not a hipster.
I think Lou was always a little bit of an outcast. Lou was the kind of person that you're never really sure if he's telling you the truth.
Even when he'd like tell a white lie to somebody in front of me, he would say, "Can you believe he believed what I just said?" I think he became aware of his ability to have people trust him sort of in a haphazard way. Once he became aware of that, he wasn't afraid to use it further.
A schemer and a liar. That's probably the best way of summing up his personality.
He would tell you all these lies, and then every once in a while something would be true, but you just didn't know whether or not to believe him. So he used to say that his first cousin, that he was very close to, was Art Garfunkel from Simon and Garfunkel.
When I was 8 years old, I loved playing the guitar. I wanted to get into the guitar because I saw my cousin Art Garfunkel.
We all said, oh, that's BS. You know, that can't be the case.
It's not one thing. You know, he made up so many stories over our friendship.
Sure enough, that turned out to be true, and he really did know him.
Simon and Garfunkel were gigantic in the 60s. You probably remember them from Sound of Silence.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Or Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Like a bridge over troubled water.
They were massive.
Art Garfunkel sang at his bar mitzvah. I think that was a very formative moment for Lou.
And so any available object, any tale or backstory that Lou could use to convince you that he knew what he was doing, he would use. And maybe the first thing he ever used that way was his actual relationship with Art Garfunkel, his cousin.
I was a kid musician in a band. We all had bands. We had a lot of fun. We were playing clubs. That's where I met Lou. It was 1973. The club was full of people doing the walk, including Lou Pearlman in his leisure suit, polyester, by the way. That was the look. I saw them on the side of the stage, and hey, trying to get my attention because I was on stage. I love music. You guys are great. We should get together. My cousin's Art Garfunkel. That was the calling card. And he wanted he and I to be like the reincarnation of Simon and Garfunkel. But it was a hobby for him, music. You know, he'd strum a chord and try to sing, and it wasn't really his thing. Yeah, and Artie, if you're listening, in the end, Lou, he just wanted to be like you. And we had no idea how much that would drive him to all kinds of things.
I went back to finish Queens College and did my thing in accounting. I had to stick with business because it was so difficult to get into the music business. And I loved it. I got my MBA, but most importantly was my love for both. But I stayed with aviation.
I mean, the blimps are kind of cool and interesting, but he was trying to make a business out of it.
Lou had this, I think, in retrospect, rather brilliant idea, which was to use blimps to advertise all kinds of products. He first made a deal with Jordache Jeans.
So Jordash's jeans company, they made jeans that you had to like lie flat on the bed and have four guys zip them up for you. Jordache, look, Jordache, remember? Jordache. He finds this blimp, but by blimp standards, it's a kind of a cheap little blimp. But somehow he convinces Jordache to put their name on the side of it, and he'll put it up and they'll get all this advertising.
Unfortunately, he had put so much gold leaf on the outside of the blimp that it crashed in New Jersey and only made it a couple hundred yards.
Only one aboard, the pilot, unhurt. A gust of wind reportedly hurled it to the ground, damaging its landing gear.
What does Lou do? The blimp cost maybe 5 figures. Reportedly, Lou has insured the blimp for millions.
The Jordache blimp would have killed most businesses. But Lou Pearlman is not the kind of person who gives up.
He creates this company called Airship International. It's a publicly traded company. He has shareholders in everything.
I think when he got people investing in him, he had a pool of money to keep an appearance now like what his business was doing was good. But what he had was a pile of investor money that he bought a Rolls Royce with and a penthouse apartment that made the investors feel good.
He had 2 Rolls Royces that he would drive around the neighborhood with. I don't know if they were his or what. It had a fake phone in it. You know, he'd be driving, one of them was a convertible, and you'd see him driving it on this fake phone.
I looked at Lou sometimes like a tabloid. Everything is like 10% of the truth and 90% of but Lou's a talker. He was a storyteller.
And whether these stories were true or not doesn't really matter in the great sense. What matters is hearing these entrepreneurial stories made you feel more like you wanted to give him your money.
Lou's blimp business for a while was successful. He leased blimps to McDonald's.
As you can see on the tail, that's the name of our company, Airship International Limited.
The idea is that he's going to create blimps and people will be able to advertise on the side of these blimps.
In addition to the blimps, Lou has these other companies, a helicopter service, a charter service, all these things that fly in the sky.
Lou was essentially borrowing planes from somebody who owned them or leasing them, and then acting as a middleman who would turn around and rent those planes and charter them to others who would pay for them, and oftentimes he would take credit for owning those planes.
We did charter flights, and we flew Paul McCartney and Wings, Rolling Stones, Phil Collins, Madonna, and lo and behold, New Kids on the Block. I just didn't know who they were. And I just questioned, how could these kids afford an airplane? And I was told, these kids did $200 million in record sales and $800 million in touring and merchandising. I was like, I'm in the wrong business.
When you find the real deal, it's never enough.
Image was everything for Lou, and his image, if it couldn't be the guy who was in the band, he was the guy who was going to make the band.
I want it that way.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.